You guys can scoot up together if you wouldn't mind, so that the five people in the room are kind of hanging out with each other. Sure, I mean, just in the same row, or I don't smell. I mean, I did shower. Okay. So I bet you're wondering why I've gathered you here today. Let's start with some breaths. Breaths. So deep breath in, noise on the way out. Have fun with it. Yeah. Deep breath in. Not of the Living Dead. I mean, what's it called? Walking Dead. That's on tonight. That's kind of sounded like a zombie exhale. So deep breath in. And one more really nice. Almost slid right off the seat. Deep breath in and a real long exhale. Giggles work too. So deep breath in. So I'm 19 years old, maybe 20 at this point. I'm in the Navy. I'm stationed in Charleston, South Carolina, and I'm on a sub-rescue ship called USS Orlan, which was a sub-rescue ship, which meant I was part of the submarine squadron. So we were the rescue ship, all the submarines, and then there was the supply ship, or what they call a tender, which is a humongous ship. It's like a cruise ship size. It's humongous. 1,000 people crew compared to my ship's 180. So for whatever reason, I was working on that ship that day, and it was around lunchtime, and everything was 10 times bigger than on my own ship. Now, growing up, full-blooded Italian, every Sunday was meatballs and rigatoni, and I would grate the cheese and get it all nice, big bowl. And that was the routine for a young, growing up Italian American male or female in our family. Go back to this day on the Frank Cable, and it's Spaghetti Day. And like I said, it's a big, big, big ship, so it's very different than anything I'm used to. And I'm just going in line, sliding my tray, and the guy gives me a piece of garlic bread and slops the spaghetti, chili mac, whatever crap they called spaghetti, because it was not, vetted by any real Italians. And at the end of the line was the bowl of cheese, and I'm putting the cheese on, and the cook is looking at me. And I know I like a lot of cheese, so I'm putting more on, kind of look at him indignant, and I take that extra scoop and throw it on, and walk away. And he's looking at me like, I'm like, whatever. And I start eating my spaghetti and realize I've just put shredded coconut on everything, which was at the very end by the desserts. So I go back with my whole plate, now sheepishly looking at the cook, and can I get a new one? I thought that was cheese. He goes, I was wondering what the hell you were doing. He goes, no, this ain't Mama's house, brother. This is the U.S. Navy. That big old can of cheese down there, that's what you put on it. And it leads right into what this talk is about. And that is, nothing I see means anything. Beyond thought, beyond vision. These are the Course in Miracles principles, and this is a part in the book where it's reviewing some of those lessons. And the very first lesson in Course in Miracles is nothing I see has any meaning. We're the ones giving it meaning. And in that moment, that bowl at the end of the line, to me, what I saw, because it was the truth, it was a bowl of cheese. I don't care what you say. It didn't turn to coconut until it hit my mouth. I saw cheese. And I had a complete different reality than everybody else that day, because they all knew it was coconut, because they saw the can of cheese, because they didn't have my particular upbringing and those filters that I had online with what I saw. The reason nothing I see means anything is because I see nothing, and nothing has no meaning. It is necessary that I recognize this, that I may learn to see. What I think I see now is taking the place of vision. I must let it go by realizing it has no meaning so that vision may take place. So in our meditation, I invited us to go beyond thought, beyond vision, and let whatever happened happen. Because I bet people had a thought. I had thoughts. Turn it off. But it's a discovery, and it's a place to let yourself know where your thoughts go and where our vision go and what we see. And on the way here, you saw a bazillion different things, and with all the judgments, filters, and things that you have going on in your life from day one to now, filtered what you saw on your way here. And you think you saw things that didn't exist. They existed only for you in your reality. And many of us drove the same path or similar paths to get here. We all saw something completely different. And none of it means anything. And the way for us to be able to get to that nothing place is by identifying and recognizing that nothing means nothing. And to get that in there first so that I can clean that slate and start fresh. One of the second concepts here is I am a set. That's not it. I have given what I see all the meaning it has for me. So I have given everything I see the meaning it has for me, like I do with the bowl of cheese, coconut. And I love coconut, just not on spaghetti. Very different flavors there. Piece of cake, wonderful. Spaghetti, not so great. But I've given what I see all the meaning I have for me. I've judged everything that I look upon, and it is this and only this that I see. And in that moment, as naive, not naive, as benign as that was, it was just an innocent little bowl of coconut. But for me in that moment, that was my world. That's not vision. It's merely an illusion of reality because my judgments have been made quite apart from that reality. And it was even a judgment to think that everybody grades their G's, even the Navy. May be a naive judgment, an innocent judgment, but I have to admit, looking back in hindsight, that was a judgment. And when I look at the word judgment, most of the time when we have that word, we think, you're bad, you judged. It's like, no. It's just letting you know that it's just saying judgment filter. Just put it that way. It's like I just put a major filter on top of my lens. This way we can get off our backs about judgment and just realize that that's what we're doing. This is not vision. It's merely the illusion of reality because my judgment says that my judgments have been made quite apart from the reality. I am willing to recognize the lack of validity in my judgments because I want to see. Let me start that sentence over. I am willing to recognize the lack of validity in my judgments because I want to see. My judgments have hurt me and I do not want to see according to them. So what this talk is also lending to is the vision, and it's going to come up in a couple seconds, but I'm going to say it now, that when we see and when we think without spirit, that these thoughts and seeings are unworthy of us because you're not bringing God with you. You're not bringing God in your vision. You're not bringing God in your thoughts. And that these thoughts aren't real because they're not God thoughts. And I say God loosely, God be understanding, all that is, universe, big electron in the sky, whatever. But to understand that when I'm seeing something and I'm only using my filters, and it doesn't mean that I'm bad or shameful or anything, but when I'm looking through only the eyes of Mark, I am not going to see what the truth is ever. And I'm going to keep making it up, keep making it up, and keep making it up. And it may please me, it may displease me. It's still a judgment. And that's what this is lending to. That's what this part is about, is talking for us of beyond thought and beyond vision. My judgments have hurt me, and I do not want to see according to them. And think about that. Think about in reality what we want for our own selves, what we want for each other, what we want for our children. Would you say to a new member in your family growing up, meaning a new child, I wish for you the worst of life? No, you always wish for them the best. Now, truth will give them the best. We all know we're on our own paths. But you wouldn't ask them, I wish for you to walk around with blinders in your life so that you only see half of everything that's ever going on. Nobody would ever consciously wish that upon each other. But actually, we do it to each other when we throw a judgment at each other. When we throw a judgment at ourselves. But when I share in that judgment and I bring it to you, now I'm blinding you too. I just took whatever clear vision that you may have had and just put Vaseline all in your eyes and blurred it up and say, how's that work for you? And we may have done it innocently, Some people may have done it on purpose because, well, if life's going to be blurry for me, I want everybody to be blurry. That misery loves company type thing. And we may not do it as consciously as we think, but we're still doing it. And that's where we bring those judgments to each other. But back to that very last sentence, my judgments have hurt me. This judgment that I've had, this filter that I've put on has hurt me. It's an inside job. It always is. I may act and behave in ways that end up hurting others because of that. And that would be your inside job. And then we have to come together and heal all those things with each other. But just coming down to me and my vision and my seeing, this blocks my vision when I see through these judgments. It hurts me and only me. I do not understand anything I see. How could I understand what I see when I have judged it amiss? What I see is the projection of my own errors of thought. I do not understand what I see because it is not understandable. There is no sense in trying to understand it, but there's every reason to let it go. But there's every reason to let it go and make room for what can be seen and understood and loved. I can exchange what I see now for this merely. They should have put a comma there. I could exchange what I see now for this merely by being willing to do so. It is not a better choice than the one I made before. So what we're saying and what they're saying here is that we have this choice here. We have a choice now to know that nothing I see makes any sense. It's not understandable. You know how when we talk about emotions and thoughts and we try to figure out a feeling and we're like, it does not compute because it's not a logical thing? And we've talked about this, and everybody here pretty much has been in a workshop, but I know you've done emotional work. So I know all these people have been in a workshop and understand some of the language I'm talking about. We're talking about the difference between a feeling and a thought. And that it's illogical, even in our process, to try to analyze why something feels. And that's kind of what this is saying. I don't understand it. I don't need to understand it. It's not understandable. It's to be let go of. And we try to understand every single thing. I have done in my own process of trying to understand the last 3 years. It gives you a headache. There's no understanding in this. There's letting go, and there's sometimes surrendering. And when we say surrendering, it's not a surrendering out there, it's a surrendering in here. It's a surrendering between you and spirit, and it's a very personal relationship. It's personal for every 7.5 billion humanoids on the planet, and it's very personal for all the other creatures as well. We don't know what the relationship between a pine tree, we're talking about my pine tree, and spirit is. That's personal with them. I know what my relationship is. And as I can understand these concepts more, I'm going to have a clear relationship with that spirit in me, because I'm going to bring that God self with me everywhere I go. Now, I always do bring it, but I bring it consciously. Do I say I want to see with the eyes of God today? Do I say I want to think with the mind of God today? Or do I just go out seeing and thinking, and then therefore creating by default, having all those judgments show up, misunderstanding things and trying to bring understanding to it when there's nothing to be understood in the first place? It's a matter of being. How many times when any single one of us, the whole group here, have been in a place of confusion, when you just quit trying to figure it out, did the answer just trickle into your life? When you stop trying to force it, when you let go of the confusion, when you surrender to whatever, I guess I'll never know. And then one day you just knew, and it trickled in. It just, you know what I mean by trickle? You felt, it was like that aha moment. And sometimes it's a big click, but sometimes it's subtle. It's that surrendering to not needing to understand it. And that it's being a thinker is a blessing and a curse at the same time. And I know you people, there's people in the room, and I know that we're all thinkers here. And that's like sometimes our worst enemy. My judgments have hurt me, and I do not want to see according to them. You know, I said this line before, and I'm probably going to misquote it. It's from Mike Tyson, but it's something to the effect of, if I had to walk, if my mind was a neighborhood to walk in at night, I wouldn't want to walk alone. I said that all discombobulated. But it's not a safe place to walk in sometimes alone. And it's like, and the worry wart
part of us, all those things that imagine scenarios and we're seeing them in our mind's eye, and then we're thinking them and we're seeing, and that's not vision. That's not where God's spirit, ultimate high def frequency of love hangs out. That's your thoughts. And according to what this has been saying, it's not even worthy of you. And don't be mad if God's not there, because God's not there. That's not that God, it's not a God thought. It's not that God is gone. And I always talk about spirit radio, and there's no judgment on what frequency you tune into. But if you're tuned in down here and you're hearing, oh, don't be upset and mad that you don't hear spirit radio there. It's all part of spirit. We know that on those deeper levels. But I'm talking about the harmony, the frequencies that uplift you and make you in this earth walk feel great, feel enlightened, feel rejuvenated, feel pulsating energy. That's on that higher frequency. And it's all there all the time. All we have to do is tune in. You may have to start all the way back out on that lower radio station and work your way on up the scale again and get acclimated to it. You ever hear a song at the beginning of the song, it's a little abrasive, but once it goes on for a while, you're there, you're in there. Hey, I kind of like this. Sometimes our frequencies were like, we were just stagnant for a moment and we needed a little bit of a jolt. And then once that jolt happened, we were on. It's like in the very olden days when they first started with electric motors, they called it dogging it on and off. They had to bring a little power, turn it off. Bring a little power, turn it off. Bring a little power, turn it off. Wind it up, wind it up, wind it up. And now it's got, okay, now I'm going. I can take all the electricity you're bringing to me. Sometimes we're like that. If I gave like spirit radio full blast and you were just woe is me for the past year, it would be so overwhelming. It would feel just as negative in that moment to you as that. But that's because your judgments had been hurting you for so long, and you had so many filters in your vision and going in your thoughts that it was explosive. And pain was only the difference between that moment between illusion and truth. The once truth was there, there was no pain. When you were in illusion, there might have been no pain. There was that popping of it's like once the needle goes in, and then it doesn't really hurt anymore. And that's what that understanding and that letting go lends to us. The fourth concept in this particular part, these thoughts do not mean anything. The thoughts of which I am aware do not mean anything because I am trying to think without God. What I call my thoughts are not my real thoughts. My real thoughts are the thoughts I think with God. I am not aware of them because I have made my thoughts to take their place. I'm willing to recognize, having a denser day. I'm willing to recognize that my thoughts do not mean anything and to let them go. I choose to have them be replaced by what they were intended to replace. My thoughts are meaningless, but all creation lies in the thoughts I think with God. I'm always saying this little sentence that we're creating by default. And that's what kind of this is saying. Our thoughts don't mean anything. They're not congruent with spirit thought. And when we have those kind of thoughts that are just that crap that runs, that little feeling right there, is that me or is that God? Because would God go to anybody? Driving on the road, cutting me off, with wearing a different shirt than I preferred? Whatever it was that would bring that thought of any judgment, that knowing that that's not God, that's fear. That's anything but that God self in me. And when I do that to myself and have fear to myself, all to myself, it's like it's my very own friend is messing with nobody in the moment but me. That's how it feels. And it's dedicated its entire energetic pattern to just mess with me that day. And it's a nanosecond away from going away when I bring God back into my thoughts. And God's going to come in that word, whatever charge is on that word for you guys, to let it go and retranslate it for you, for your own selves. To know that when I bring that part of me with me, then I am really creating. That's when I'm really creating. There's a difference between the reality, creating reality, it coming at me, and me understanding the fact that Multi-dimensions happen at one time, multi-realities, multi-aspects of life, whatever you want to call it. And that I am in one out of fear, or I'm in one out of God. And that if I'm in one out of fear, I'm not creating. That's not creation. That's making crap. And it's different than creation. And as I've been reading this more, it's been helping me understand the difference and to be able to break it apart. Because nothing but what we can create of purity, remember that's an unobstructed flow, is all purity means. And spirit is pure. Pure creation is coming from there. But when we're doing stuff out of fear, we're just making stuff. We're just like filling our play with props that serve us none. And when I can look at it from the basics of, well, it means nothing anyway, it's going to help me let it go. And that's why we go to this, it means nothing. To understand that I put all these attachments on it. I put the attachments on it in my vision and what I thought I saw. It's like there's a show on TV called Brain Games. And you're always doing little studies with people just to show them what they really don't see. And you're putting all the stuff right before them, and they're having them describe it, and then they're showing them what it really is, and everybody's faces is always the same. But I thought I saw this. When you come to witnesses in any kind of court case, especially if it was high action, 3 witnesses could have been seen at the very same event, and you're going to get like, he had a red coat, he had a black coat, he had a red hat, there was no hat, he was bald, smoking a cigarette, no cigarette, he was running, he was walking, there was a cane. All these from the same people. And things that happen around them, they don't even realize are inputting. So that you're the foreground, and this scene happened when per se there was a purse snatching, and you saw that in the foreground, but you didn't realize that in the background there was a man way in the distance walking by with a cane. Your brain got that input and kind of saw it and then filtered it all into one. And the guy hit him with the cane and took the purse. And it's like, well, that event was completely made up by you just now. And that other person that didn't see the guy in the background with the cane, no cane comes into their description as the police officer is writing down the stuff. And we do it every single day. We do it with our lives, and we do it with each other the mostly. You know, we do have body language. And, you know, I've been trained. I've been doing this for years as far as workshops and looking at body language. But it doesn't mean I'm always 100% correct, because I have a filter. And if I'm in a great mood that day, I'm probably going to be clear. If I brought God with me that day, like when I'm in a workshop and I don't have my ego or my filters with me, I get out of the way, my vision is crystal clear. If I'm walking down the street, you might hurt my feelings because I might not have seen it was your stuff. Because I might have had a thought going on that day and I didn't bring spirit with me, I brought fear instead, and it skewed my vision. And then I thought that person was offending me or whatever I thought. That made my reality different than what it was because my judgments have hurt me. And I do not want to see according to them. And keep coming back to that one line. Because in reality, that all the pain that I've ever received in my whole life, outside those physical things when we were children and understanding there's a soul deal going on, I've created them. I've created these experiences of pain when I've had these judgments about what I thought I saw. And then tried to figure it all out and have bigger understanding and cost myself even more pain. And God wasn't with me in those thoughts. God was with me. I wasn't thinking with my God mind in those moments. I mean, we are God. You can never be without God. It's impossible physically and metaphysically. It's impossible to be without God in your life. You are it. It's like a molecule saying, I'm not a molecule. It's how could this stand be without itself? So always knowing that. But am I using that aspect of me? Am I thinking with that? Okay, men have all been accused of thinking with something other in their lives, right? Okay. Yes, we don't have to go there. It's still PG. It's a, what do you call it, inferred thing. We're doing that. Sorry for the visual. That's what we're doing. We're thinking with that part of ourselves because we're thinking from a place of insecurity, and that's a security center in our body. That's a sensation center. So we're thinking with sensations of what we want to fulfill and feel to make us feel good. So we'll pop that thought there, and God's like, man, just hang with the thoughts of purity And know that when we think and create together, we're not thinking any of that stuff. None of that stuff serves us. It's limiting. It makes you feel small. So then you have to have another thought about somebody else being smaller so that you can feel big and not feel insecure. So you can get up and go out into the world and face all those other judgments that you have that are going to make you feel small and insignificant. And then instead, make them feel small and insignificant, and then go back to that having all your judgments hurting you, because that's not the vision that you want. That's not really, it's not even vision. It's not the sight you want. So as we let go of these things, as we understand going beyond this. I read this part. I'm never upset for the reason I think, and I kind of just was kind of talking about this a little bit. I'm never upset for the reason I think, because I am constantly trying to justify my thoughts. I'm constantly trying to make them true. I make all things my enemy so that my anger is justified and my attacks are warranted. I have not realized how much I have misused everything I see by assigning this role to it. I have done this to defend a thought system that has hurt me and that I no longer want. I am willing to let it go. Or am I willing to let it go? And that's the question for you. The affirmation will be, I am willing to let it go. But we have to ask that question, am I willing to let that part go? Because this is that, back to what he was saying the other day, would you rather be right or happy? And he heard that in his seminar. He went to, it made him feel good that he was in the right place, because that sentence vibrated with him. But it's back to, what do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? Because what this is saying is, I'm not upset for the reasons I think. I put it there. I put it there to justify my anger. And how many times have we done that? There's somebody walking by and like, he knew I didn't want him to walk by just now. He walked by on purpose to piss me off. I knew it because I asked him not to walk by. Well, I didn't really ask him. I thought it and kind of knew he'd know that I didn't want him to walk by, but I didn't communicate that. But that's irrelevant because he should know. I'm right to be angry. You saw him walk by, didn't you? You see how fast he walked by? He knocked stuff off the table with his breeze. The most ridiculous of scenarios can be justified if I keep one. Look, all the napkins just flew right off the table because he walked by so fast. I don't care how ridiculous it is. And the thing is, we know we go that nth degree more. And we remove choice from every single person every time they go, well, whatever they do. And we say that so we can be right, so we can justify it. And what this is saying is, when we do this, we're stuck here, man. We're stuck here. I'm only punishing myself when I've had these thoughts. You don't even know I was thinking about it. It's not like hi, I'm going to be thinking really crappy thoughts about you for about the next half hour. Just thought I'd let you know. It doesn't work that way. We don't usually do it. Although psychically, we kind of get things from each other. We either feel good when we're around each other or we're not. I mean, especially when we're really, really, really close, we can really pick it up with each other, because something in your souls have said, we're not going to hide from each other anymore. And when you try to hide again, the soul's kind of like, what are you doing? And we know, we can sense that with each other. So that's the great thing about getting closer and closer to each other. It really does make it harder to lie to each other. And that's a good thing, even though we all want to hide, but that's what we're hiding in. Just to be clear, we're hiding in the illusion that I'm right and that I am constantly trying to justify my thoughts so that I can be right. How does that work for anyone? Every single time that I've done this, it's been almost like a drug. Like if I've really gone on a tangent in my mind to justify why they were wrong or why I could be angry about the situation. It's almost been like a drug. And when I came down from it, I had to realize, damn, you just went on a ride there for a while in your mind. Thank goodness we've come to places like this. And I don't necessarily mean this building. I mean the moments within you that have you even sitting there being willing to listen to whomever in your life, so that you can go back and go, wait a minute, I'm aware that I've done that. And this lifetime, I want to surrender. I want to start bringing God, Goddess, all that is, blah, 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 with me in my thoughts and in what I see. And the more I can do that consciously, there's no, this list in creating your reality. It's like it's not a hard thing to do. It's just so much resistance we have to it. And I get so flustered with my own self because I know this too. And it's like there really is nothing to do. It's really the absence of doing. We've been doing all the things to counteract what we want. Every time I have that thought and that vision or that sight that's not hanging out with my spirit self, I'm counteracting everything I want. I'm saying I want all these things, but then I'll have a judgment of what life is, and I hold life to be that for me. And somebody else can be walking down the very same block and be having a completely different experience than me because their filter is different. Or maybe they surrendered to that and they brought God with them. And it doesn't even matter what flavor of God you bring with you. I don't care if you're a fundamental Christian. If you're feeling it and you're alive in it, it's like I've watched the people that were beating me up with their Christianity or whatever other religion it was. And then I've watched the people that's like, wow, you're on fire in this and you're smiling and you're beaming love. You're just being real. And they've got a wonderful reality and they've never heard the term create your own reality in their life. They wouldn't know what metaphysics and crystals had to do with anything. But all the magic is working perfectly because they're bringing God with them in their understanding. And they're like, I want to see with these eyes. Do you know things are more beautiful when we look that way too? Sometimes I beat myself up because when I look through the eyes of pain, life is uglier. And when I look through the eyes of spirit, holy moly, man, it doesn't matter what I'm looking at. Beauty happens, and all kinds of things will happen to let you see beauty in something that you didn't even realize was beautiful. I'm sitting waiting for somebody to open up the store once when I got there earlier than him, and it was a sunny morning, but it was after it had rained, so there was raindrops all along the power lines, and the sun was just coming that way. So while I'm sitting there waiting for him to work, I'm watching a light show go on as the sun is moving, and it's the simplest of ridiculous of simplistic things as far as a water droplet on a power line, a bazillion of them, that looked like somebody had Christmas lights on that had the pulsating. And if I just moved a little bit, just my head, just a little tilt, I can make it even more of a light show. Just because I was open and willing to see pretty. It had nothing, there wasn't rocket science. I wasn't like about to just cure anything or find out like how to time travel. It was a simple moment, but it was an honest moment. It was a loving moment, and I got to see beauty. And in that moment, I know God was there because I felt it. It was such a wonderful feeling, and there was no thought. There was no logic thing like, I think I'm going to let this make myself feel good because of how wonderful it is. None of that happened. It just washed over me. That's how you know. That's how you know you're seeing with those eyes. That's how you know you're thinking with that part of your mind. That's your barometer. So if I'm going, it's me. And if I'm going, it's me. But which part of myself am I connected to? My fear part or my spirit part? So we're going to continue with this over the next few weeks and talk more about beyond thought, beyond mind, and get a little more cosmic. But first we got to get into the thinking part. The part that we know we're doing before we can get into that beyond mind observer cosmic consciousness part of my mind. Let me just hang out with my human and realize I do this stuff and I'm the one limiting everything I do. So hang out with this. If you guys have Course in Miracles books, this is at the end. It's a workbook. It's lesson 52, page 83 in my book. And we just did, I lied to you, it's page 81. Lesson 51. 52 will be next week. But it's a review of those different lessons. But as you read these words too, and then just sit with them. Notice how many times I read a couple sentences? Do that for your own self. Everybody's going to have that sentence that triggers that in them. It makes me realize, wow, man, this is... This morning when we meditated, I invited you guys to look. What I'm inviting you to do now is to continue looking and notice where you see. Watch when you're just in regular life and just start paying attention to yourselves It's like, ooh, ah. No beating up, no flogging, awareness only. 7 moments of blunder, 1 moment of wonder erases it all. Because it's that a moment, it's that we think, there's another moment of blunder. No, you caught yourself, you became aware. That's a moment of wonder. So just take yourself with yourself. You know that all like, wherever I go, there I am? Okay. Wherever I go, there I am. And if the I that I've been bringing wherever I go has been the guy or gal looking through filters, looking through judgment, bringing only fear thoughts with me, then that means wherever I go, there I am with all my filters, and that reality's the universe has got no choice but to give me exactly what I want in that little square of dimension. We'll talk about dimensions and all that crap, but that's what I will experience, and you guys can be standing 2 inches away from me and having a completely different experience, because wherever you go, there you are. We'll talk more later. Oh.